Hello, everybody, and welcome to Case Manager Connections. I am Samuel Coyote, and I'm your host for this evening. And I have a great guest with me. Her name is,
Kristi Sachs.
oh, yes, Kristi Sachs. She's here to join me on our first Case Manager Connections podcast. Kristi is very talented, she's very creative, and she's a great businesswoman. So she's here to join me. She has a lot of information for us out there. So without me wasting any time, I will let her introduce herself. Go ahead, Kristi.
Thank you, Sam. My name is Kristi Sachs. My company's Workflow Mindfulness. And what I concentrate on is helping individuals, CEOs, small businesses, Fortune 500 companies. I've met with many different people. And what I work on is helping them understand thought process, stress, to help with distraction. Distraction is probably the biggest one we're dealing with in today's society. And what I do is I come in and I will sit with the company and talk about what their pain points are, and then put together a program to help people get over these obstacles that they may be facing in their daily life when it comes to work as well as home.
Oh, that's great, great, great. So let me ask you a question. How long have you done this? How long have you been doing this?
For myself, I've been doing this about about 5 years. I started doing it myself, mindfulness. I was in a very bad place. A friend of mine passed away and I couldn't get my thoughts together. I was in a space where I was just negative. I hated everything. I got up every morning. I was just stressed out and I had no interest in doing what I had to do in the day, but I knew I had to. So I kind of got to a place where I made a safe space in my home. And I think that what's happening right now, and one of the things that I'm going to be launching in the next couple of weeks, is the idea of, are you ready to step outside your front door? Are you ready for the outside world? Because most people right now, like I was back then, you were inside, you build this safety place. You're not going out as much and it's your safe zone. And when you go out, if you notice, like if you're going out to shovel, or, I live up here where there's snow. So if you're going out to shovel, or if you're going outside to go to the food store, pay attention to how you feel, because if you're working from home and we're coming into this space where we're going to start to go back to our campuses and back to the workplace, start to pay attention how you're feeling. What happened with me was I got stuck in the house. I had this traumatic experience happen. And I didn't want to be around people. It was too much for me to handle. It was overwhelming. So I made a job. I got a job. I worked from home. I didn't go outside. If I had to go outside, and I was living in Florida, so it was hard not to go outside. Mm-hmm. If I went outside, I was with someone, or I had a very detailed plan on what I was going to do, because I could not get my thoughts and my feelings together to be able to just be around people. So what's happening right now with a lot of people, I'm noticing, is that they're in that space where they found that comfortable place and they don't want to get up and go to work. They don't want to have to drive to work. They don't want to get back into that routine, but it's something that's creeping in. It's starting to come. And what I'm putting together is that idea of, how do we prepare ourselves to walk out that front door, since we've set these new boundaries of staying inside because that's what we were told to do to protect ourselves. And now we're coming into a place where it's time to go back outside. How do we prepare ourselves to do those things? And when I was in my space and I was stuck inside, I was about a year where I was really bad. I started to say to myself, I have to get out of this house. How do I do that? And, I looked all over, I tried different things. And one of the things I realized is I had to get my thoughts together, because my thoughts were destroying me. It was just a constant battle of, what I have to do in the day. And then what I call them is trains of thoughts. And all of these trains of thoughts of horrible things that could happen to me, what people were going to say to me, how people were looking at me, what I was going to do at my job. And how I was going to mess it up. It was never positive. It was always in this negative space. So when I got to a point where I said to myself, it is time for me to make a change. And to do that, I had to go inside of myself. And that's the beautiful thing about mindfulness, is it's inside all of us. And we have this beautiful guidance system to get us here to this present moment, but we can't get here because we trained ourselves not to be in the present moment. We're constantly in our phones, we're working on virtual now. So we're in front of a screen, or the idea of just getting lost in thought, daydreaming and thinking about the wonderful things that we could do, or we want to do. And the hard things about the past that we might get stuck in, like a fight we might have had, or disagreement, or just things that might have happened years ago. So working with mindfulness and coming into the present moment really helps you be able to decide how you want to feel in the next moment, how you want to react in the next moment, and how you want to move forward. So that's why I feel like right now is just a special time, because teaching people how to set those new boundaries is really exciting, because they can say to themselves, when I get up in the morning, I want to feel exhilarated. I want to feel excited to start the day. How do I start doing those things and implementing those things now? It will make it easier when you have to open that front door and walk out there and say, I've got to take my kids to school. I got to get my kids to school. I got to get myself to work. I have to go to shopping, and getting back into that routine. But starting to think about it now is going to make it so much easier than just waking up that morning and being in that shock of, I got to do it. I got to do it. I got to do it. And not being able to be present and enjoying everything in that present moment.
Wow, that's a lot of information. How do you, if somebody was, you said you work with a lot of companies, right? So what do you work with most? What do you work with most of their staff, their employees, the HR department? So what do you mostly focus on?
So right now, what I'm focusing is the HR department, because making phone calls and getting in touch with different companies, I'm finding they're the most stressed out people. They have so much on their plate. I mean, before COVID, they had a lot on their plate. They're the heart of a company. They're keeping the managers and CEOs in touch with their employees. They're keeping their employees in touch with, their benefits, how they're getting paid. And if there's any conflict, they're in charge of making sure that the conflict is resolved and that everyone is on the same page. So they already have a lot on their plate. And when COVID came in, they became the IT department, because they had to make sure that people were connected to each other so the business could stay open as people were working from home. And then they became, dealing with people who were having anxiety and stress over the uncertainty of what was happening in those moments. So they just started picking up more hats and more hats. And now when people are starting to come back onto campus, it's overwhelming, because they're now dealing with people who may not be so, I don't really believe in COVID, to the people that are, I'm overly, worried about what can happen to me. And you're going to put these two people next to each other in a workplace. What is that conflict? What is going to happen when those things come into play? And most of these smaller companies don't have a wellness committee. They don't have something put together to, get the mindset where it needs to be for these people to come back onto campus. So it's, when I'm talking to them, my main goal right now is to teach them the tools of mindfulness so they can get themselves out of that stress and that anxiety that is happening in the workplace for them, and learn those tools so they can bring themselves into the present moment and say, okay, this is what I need to take care of, and this is what I need to do. But I can do it knowing that in this moment I can be calm doing it. I know if I get distracted, how to bring myself back into the present moment and get the task done at hand, and then be able to speak to people, even though they may be overwhelmed and stressed out, to put that aside and say, how can I help my employees? How can I help my managers? And how can I help my owners? So we're all on the same page, and we can get back into work and back into the flow of things in a more present and calm manner. So right now, the HR department's where I'm focusing on, because I feel like they're the ones that need me the most.
Wow. And what's funny? You said wellness. I remember at my job when COVID first, came to the scene, people were confused. They didn't know what their job, working from home, they were stuck indoors. And the state made it required that a lot of companies start wellness I guess,
like a checkup.
Wellness checks. Yeah, wellness checks. So every week, everybody gets on Teams to talk about movies, to talk about food, to talk about your marriage, anything that can bring the team together. So companies have now started to do a lot of wellness meetings weekly. So that's definitely something that I've seen take place in many companies. So the question I have for you is, what type of skills and what type of certifications do you need to get to become a mindfulness practitioner, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's different levels. You have levels where you go to college and you get a degree in it, and that's more in depth. And, they kind of learn mindfulness, and they probably use it in their everyday life. So there's that category. What I did is I actually used mindfulness to save myself. It saved my life. And so in that process of learning the tools and going through what I didn't really know I was doing mindfulness. I got to that point and I said to myself, I have to change my mindset. How do I do that? And I kind of took little bits and pieces from books and from television and from social media and from friends and different places that I went. And I put together for myself a program of how I need to change my thought process so I can move forward. And that was a lot of meditation. And meditation can be scary because when you meditate, it's quiet. And what do you have left are your thoughts. So what I did is I would sit in those meditations, and as much as my body wanted to I don't want to sit here. I don't want to do this. It's aggravating. I don't want to do this. I started small and was like, okay, let me just focus on what am I thinking about? And I started to do research on what is a thought? How does a thought come up into our brain? What is happening when I have this thought? And I broke that down, and I started to kind of teach myself through trial and error, which was kind of painful, on getting to where I was to a point where I started to understand mindfulness. And when I was with a friend in a yoga studio, and she's like, what are you doing? Because you're different. And I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing. She's like, well, come over, let's do a like a session. Let me see what you're doing. And we did a session. And the next day she called me and she's like, whatever you're doing, you need to teach everybody this, because you changed my life. You changed my perception. And I can't even I'm so grateful what is happening to me right now. So she did a class, and we just kind of called it meditation. And I taught, 5 people the class, and I changed all of their lives. It was extraordinary. From just doing what I did for myself, I just kind of taught them how to do it. And when for me, I was like, well, what am I doing? I need to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. I want to make sure that when I'm teaching people that I'm doing it in a way that I'm not going to harm anyone. So I did research, and I found that it was mindfulness. So what I did is I found a practitioner, someone who taught a practitioner's class, and so I could teach it. But I did a lot of research because I didn't want it to be more yoga based, which a lot of mindfulness can kind of go left into that area of, yoga and meditation. I wanted somebody who was very black and white with it. It was more science and what was happening. So I found this gentleman. His name was Kane. He had an online course that I did. And he was amazing because he was teaching me how to teach other people to do what I did. And so I did the practitioner's course. I got my certification, and then I started teaching. So it just depends on how far you want to go with it, and what direction you want to go with it. But there's so many different levels. And that's what's interesting about mindfulness, is that we're just starting to understand it. And then right now they're starting to you've got the scientists who are, looking at the brain, watching what happens when someone's doing mindfulness, what the brain is doing. Then you have people that are very spiritual, that take it to that level of, energy and how they feel through the process of mindfulness. And right now there's this beautiful thing happening where everybody's kind of coming together, and we're building this beautiful community of the science of it with the spirituality of it, and meshing that together. And right now I feel like I'm not so much the scientist, because I definitely do not have the education in that department. But because I've lived it and I utilize these tools on a daily basis, that's where I feel like my niche is. And that's why I come into the companies, because, I was a salesperson. I worked for companies and call centers. I had the 9-to-5 job and struggled and had to balance work life and home life. So all of those things that I have done and have gotten to a place of peace and contentment with, I just want to teach that to as many people as possible, because the hell we create in our brain, we can change that by just understanding the process of what a thought is.
Wow, that's awesome. Now I have a question. You said earlier that you work with HR departments. Are you open to work with any other types of departments? Maybe social work. I remember last time we spoke, you told me you work with veterans, correct?
Yes, I volunteer at the VA. That's one of my passions. Yeah.
Okay, so are you open to work with other areas in human services, or just in the world?
Yeah, I mean, when I started, my first company's name was This Is the Only Moment That's Real. That was like my very first company. That's how we met, is through that company. And that was focused on just individuals and classes, because I was focusing more in the yoga studios and the gyms, and I was getting into that area. And I did a lot of individual work. And through that process, I met people that worked at Fortune 500 company that was like, we need to get you in front of our collections department. That is our most stressed out department. I've done that. It's horrible to ask people for money. So
exactly.
Yeah. And you're those people are carrying everybody's, as I call it, vomit. Everybody's stressed. You call, do you have money? I can't pay. Boom. They're giving you all this stuff. And that person on the other line is receiving all of this stuff, and they're taking it inside, like they feel guilty, or they're blocking it in a negative way. And then they're telling their neighbor or their friend to let go of this stress and anxiety they just received from the phone call. But yeah, my focus is HR, because I feel like that's that niche. But yeah, right now I work with individuals. I have a couple of CEOs that I'm working with right now. Awesome. That are looking at changing their company, but they need to change themselves first. So that was a beautiful thing. They came in and was like, I really need to understand myself. And then from there, I need to trickle that down into my company, but I need to understand how it works first. So individuals, I have teens and families that I work with. It depends on what's coming, as you live in this mindful world, you start to just see what comes in front of you. And when it's there, that person's the person I'm going to help. And if it's, somebody who is calling me because they're overwhelmed and they can't handle life, then that's what I'm going to work with. But if it's an HR department and says, I need you to come and help my collections department, then that's what I'm going to work with. So in life, in getting into the present moment, whatever comes into my time in that present moment, that's what needs to be there. And that's who I need to help. And that's the end of, what I do is I just want to help as many people not have to live in the world that I lived in for 40 years of my life. That was just so overwhelming and stressful. And I couldn't get away from it as far as I ran, because it was all part of me. Yeah. So once I understood that, I was like, I need to teach people this. And I love it. I love teaching it. And I love, like with case management, what you do. Definitely, anyone that is at a job and what they're doing is they're touching people's lives. And usually when you're doing that, you're going to have that vomit involved. You're going to have someone in front of you who is giving them, I can't take this. I don't know what's happening. I'm overwhelmed. I can't carry this. You're in front of me. I'm going to give it to you. And they are the people that I love to work with, because then they can give me the stuff they don't want to carry anymore. And I know how to dump it. I know how to get rid of it. I know how to carry it, but then I can teach them how to do that as well. So when they have that conversation with someone, they can be there in the moment and passionate and really help them through listening to what they're saying. But then after that call is done or that meeting is done, they can say, okay, I'm done with this. It's not going to eat me alive. I'm not going to allow this to, trickle into the next conversation. I can let this go and then go into your family and have time and energy for your family, or have time and energy for the next person that you're dealing with. And you're not pulling that past experience through the entire day, the entire week, the entire year. So yes, absolutely. I think everyone in the world can benefit from mindfulness, because like I said, it's already in us. It's what we are programmed to do. We just don't know how to tap into it, because nobody's really introduced that idea of what is a thought.
Wow. So how long are your sessions like? Because I know before COVID, you used to do a lot of in-person sessions.
Yeah.
So now you're doing them virtually, correct?
So what I do is, for companies, it's virtual. So whatever platform they have, I'll do virtual. And a lot of the stuff that I'm doing is like a lunch and learn. So it's a 45-minute program. I sit with the managers or the owners, and we find the pain points of like what's happening. So like I said, distractions, one of the big ones. So what I do is I put a program together specifically for that company, because every company is different. So I'll put that together. There's a 45-minute program that I do. It's really 60 minutes because I always hang out and chat and talk to people. Because when you're doing mindfulness, you're introducing this idea, and sometimes it's confusing or could be overwhelming. So I always want to make sure that I'm available to have a conversation afterwards. For individuals, I do not use Zoom, and I don't do anything with the face, because when you're in that space where you're processing and trying to figure something out, and what I do is they have that like vomit session where they're talking and I'm just listening for, allowing them to let go of what they need to let go of. That's hard to do when you're staring at someone or you're staring at me directly. So I do that over the phone. I find that that's way more helpful. I've done sales a lot over the phone, so I'm very good with tone. So I can hear tone in the voice if I feel like they're overwhelmed. So I can kind of guide myself through the tone, as well as them being able to give me their feelings, which is something that we work on is, this is how I feel right now. This is what's happening. So in the end, when I do this with individuals or even with companies, what I'm trying to do is teach people that this is inside of them. I want them to find that guidance system. I want them to find that internal, place where, you can find the present moment. So I don't want to keep people for the rest of their lives. I'm not in that therapist realm. I'm not a coach. What I teach is mindfulness, and through that process, it's letting go of things of the past and understanding future ideas and getting back here to the present moment. But what I want to do is just teach them how to find it. So right now, I do a 20-minute free for individuals and then a 20-minute free consultation for businesses, just so they can find out what I do, have a conversation with me to see if we fit, because not everybody's going to fit. And then after that, I have set up for individuals. It's 2 sessions that we do, and it's 60-minute sessions. And after that, then we have a conversation and decide if they want to move forward or not, because some people, they just need to learn a little bit, and that's enough for them. They're like, this is enough. And then there's some people that are like, I really need to dig into this. And I really want to get into this place where I'm truly, really in the moment. And that might take 3 to 6 months. Most people, it takes about 3 months. So most of my individual packages are 3 months. And then for businesses, it just depends on how large they are and what they're trying to accomplish. We can, usually I go in with the lunch and learn to introduce everything. And then we can get really into it where I come in and do individual sessions with managers to teach the managers how to hold a conversation with someone, help someone process, and how to dump that, and then how to get back to what they need to get back to. And then there's workshops that I do for whole sections like sales departments, for collections departments, for IT. So it just depends on whatever structure and where you feel those pain points are. And like I said, it's very organic. So each company, each individual is completely different. So that's why I keep everything very loose, because I never know where we're going to go with the process.
Wow, that's a lot of information. I have one last question before we call it a night. Do you work with a lot of the young population, a lot of kids? So do you have experience working with younger kids?
Yeah. So the teens, younger kids. Yeah. With the little kids, I usually work with the parents to help them with the younger kids. But I've had teen groups, which teens are different. So when you look at the spectrum of how mindfulness works, you have people that are not here at all. They don't pay attention to the moment. They're like in this Groundhog's Day. They have what they do. They're daydreaming. They're in this weird zone here. Then you have people like vets that are just in the moment, so in the moment that it's more of taking it back some and really seeing everything for what it is and not being in that kind of tunnel vision that sometimes the vets are in. And with teens, their brains aren't all together, haven't come together yet. So what they're dealing with is their feelings. So usually I don't tap into the feelings with most people till I get the thought process down. But with teens, I focus on their feelings first, because what is happening with the teen is majority of their life, they've been told how they feel. So think about it with your kid, when a kid's crying, you go, oh, you're sad. Or you see a smile on their face, oh, you're happy. So throughout life, they learn their feelings based on how people are reacting to them and what people are telling them. So when they become teens, now they're really starting to feel feelings. And it's confusing because their parents might be looking at them and saying, oh, I know that you're angry. But in reality, their stomach's upset. So it's the idea of the teen understanding, what is this feeling? What am I feeling? How do I process this? And for teens, it's new to them. Most of these feelings are just like, whoa, what is this? So it's all about, with the teens, it's about getting in that calm space. It's understanding, what are we feeling? Name that feeling, how to process that feeling. And if it's an overwhelming anxiety, stress, or depression feeling, to name it correctly. So when you get up into your grown-up world, you can say to yourself, oh, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed right now, but what is this feeling? There's so many feeling words out there, but most people have 5. 2 of them are positive and 3 of them are negative. And we just kind of jump all of our feelings into that area, which causes confusion, which causes sometimes aggravation inside of ourselves, as well as that frustration with people that we're around.
Wow. And I know after, hopefully, once everything gets back to normal, a lot of young adults, teenagers, children, they will need this type of service because they've been indoors for over a year or more,
Yeah.
and probably till the end of 2021. And, this is something they'll have to learn how to let go, because a lot of kids are probably scared to even come out,
Yeah.
So this will definitely be a great service for children, for adults, for HRs, for companies out there. So if somebody wants to reach you, what's the best? I will put your information down, but I would like you to put your company name and contact information out there. If they want to reach
Thank
you,
you.
how do they get you?
Yep. So the way to get in touch with me is very easy. It's workflowmindfulness.com. There's a 20-minute free session and it links to my calendar, and you just pick a time you want to talk to me. And the thing is if you're just getting in touch with me because you don't know what mindfulness is and you want more information, that's fine. If you're calling because you're in a really bad place and you just need to vomit and get rid of something that's driving you nuts, that's fine. That 20-minute conversation is for you. So it's coming in and saying, I get on the phone, I call you, and it's like, hey, what are we doing here? And it's like, well, I want to find out more about mindfulness. Hey, I just need someone who's random that I don't know that I need to vomit on. So here it goes. Have fun. There's the 20 minutes. And then with the businesses, the 20-minute consultation is more about understanding mindfulness and what it can do for your company. So that's the difference between the 20-minute for individual and the 20-minute for a business. So workflowmindfulness.com. You go in, set up the appointment, and I'll give you a call and we go from there. And I also want to give you my phone number. My dream is to end up in Montana. So my phone number that I have set up is a Montana phone number. So I've lived all over the country, and one of the places I've never been is Montana. So that's my dream. So it's a 406 number, and then it's 478-8202. You can call me if I can't get to the phone, leave a message, send me a text message. I'm okay with that. I know a lot of teens and just individuals, that's their thing. They like to text message. So send me a text message, give me a call, find me on workflowmindfulness.com. Whichever way it makes you feel comfortable, I'm here to help.
Wow. So do you have any final do you have anything that you want to put out there, a motivational message to our members in the group?
I would say if you learn anything from what we're talking about today, one of the things to remember is to breathe. I know I talk very fast. I have a lot of energy and I can be overwhelming sometimes because I blurt a lot of information out. But one of the things to change what is happening in your life, to change yourself from this fight or flight place that you're at, is breathing. I know we breathe because we survive, but we don't take deep breaths. We live in a shallow breathing world. So it's taking a big deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Do it a couple times throughout the day. We have our phones set nice little reminders to remind yourself. Do it at least 3 times a day. There's a million different things on YouTube to give you ideas about breathing, but breathing will change your life immediately. Once I kind of do that meditation that I do with people, it starts with that breathing, and people are just like, what did you just do to me? And it was just understanding that I calmed your breath down enough that you could take those big breaths, which kick in these beautiful things in our brain, which calm us down and makes us feel good. Mm-hmm. So when you are during the day, if you're stressed out and you're overwhelmed, just hit the pause button. It takes 2 seconds to take those breaths and to breathe out, and to take those really big deep breaths and breathe everything out. Nobody can hear you. Nobody can see you. Allow yourself to have that time to take those breaths. So that is the number one thing. If I can teach that to everyone, just remember to breathe.
Wow. Thank you very much. And I will definitely post your information in the comment section so people can reach out to you. Hopefully you get a lot of customers and HR
Thank you.
executives that reach out to you. So just don't forget to send my consultation fees after, So people, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. This Case Manager Connections, we connect people with jobs, we connect people with opportunity, we connect people with training. So we are going to be signing off tonight. Don't forget to share this video, like us on YouTube, like us on Instagram, and follow us on Twitter and What else do we have? LinkedIn, everywhere. All right, so we're everywhere. And if you want to be a guest on this podcast, please feel free to comment below or send us an email. And definitely take care of yourself. If you want some, mindfulness, please reach out to Kristen, and she's ready to serve you. Okay. So thank you very much, people. Have a wonderful day.